Hi, I'm Barry Zwarenstein, and what I'd like to talk about today is the first lesson in my book, which is giving up is never an option. And this is the lesson, it's one of 13 lessons which relates to the core strategies and tools needed for veterans as they transition from the military to civilian life. This lesson, I think, was quite an important one for me, and was certainly one that was really brought home to me when I was running Comrades Ultramarathon in 1990, where I'd reached the 64-kilometer mark and my iliotibial, which is a long, tough muscle along the outside of your leg, had basically seized up and gone into cramp, and I couldn't move. And at that point, I had a choice. I was either going to give up, or I was going to draw on tools, training, resilience, endurance, and actually finishing the race and really run it and complete it on internal will rather than on physical resources. So there was a valuable lesson there for me, because I think as we move into change, as we move into territory that is unfamiliar, that is very challenging, can feel unpredictable, uncertain, where it's a struggle to understand how folk behave the way they do, because we can acknowledge that how things work in civilian life is very, very different to how things work in military life. We need to be able to draw on those tools. So there were four values initially that came to my mind. The one is the value of courage. And when I say courage, I mean that it takes courage to want to create change. It takes courage to want to heal, and it takes courage to move through adversity and challenge and even confront your own wounds. It does take a lot of courage, and I think we need to respect that. The second thing is endurance. There's certainly going to be times in our healing, whether we're struggling with adjustment challenges or post-traumatic stress disorder or any level of trauma from anything we may have experienced in our time in the military, that are going to test us, that may be painful, bring up difficult memories and feelings and emotions. And it does take endurance, emotional, mental, spiritual endurance, to hang in with those and know that it's like moving through a tunnel. It's pretty dark when you're going in the middle of it, and you can really feel closed in on, but at the end of it we get out of it. There's a beginning and there's an end. The third one is mateship, and I do know that my experience in running Comrades Ultramarathon was that the point at which I managed to continue was also determined by the mateship of those around me. People who recognized that I was struggling and I had my sort of head down, bum up, thumping down along the road, and really encouraged me, ran next to me, talked to me. And just having that support made the world a difference. And I know that when I've gone through difficult situations, having good mates around me has always been one of the big things that has helped me move through it from beginning to end. And finally, there's one of compassion. And by compassion, I mean compassion towards yourself. You know, don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be too critical on yourself. Don't be too negative towards yourself. Really respect what you are trying, and respect your need to heal, respect when you need to sit down and take a break. Pace yourself and show yourself some care. Okay, so to move on from there with regard to this lesson, I'm just going to draw on some of the things I put at the end of the book, which was the first thing I found was finding someone to be responsible to. So when I thought about doing Comrades Marathon, the idea of running 84 kilometers uphill was a bit overwhelming. And I knew there was a concern that if it got too tricky and the amount of training and months of training involved, I could get to a point of just wanting to give up. It was, too difficult. Why should I do it? So what I got was a mate who was prepared to second me. He was an excellent Comrades Marathon runner, a silver medal runner, and he took me on board. What I didn't realize was that there were going to be periods where I really didn't like him, because he didn't allow me to opt out of the journey. When I used to come to him and go, look, my ankle's sore, my knee's sore, this is not so much fun. Basically his response to me was, listen, you made an agreement with me that you were going to run this, and as far as I'm concerned, this agreement holds, and I'm not going to encourage or support any part of you that wants to opt out of this. So that level of connection and support really held me into the journey, and I think we do need mates around us to hold us in. The second thing is The other thing was finding friends to listen and encourage. Now, these are not friends who are going to hold you in and keep you in. You need a good, solid mentor for that. But the friends were always critical. You know, I know that even when I've gone through some challenging times, it's the buddies I've got that I could phone, that phoned me, that checked up on me. You know, when I was sitting in a pretty bleak space, or, you know, my experience at the time was sitting in a corner and the walls were moving in, they were the ones that kept me afloat. It was a light beyond my window, and I could see that there was hope, there was connection, there was support, there was care. The other one is strengthen your will through discipline and effort. Now, you know, all the self-help exercises that are on my website, learning to take care of yourself, sleep, eating, exercise, the energy psychology and energy medicine tools, anything that strengthens your will and strengthens your resolve is critical, because navigating into new territories, navigating through your wounds, through your traumas, it really does take resolve. And understandably, it's not easy, but without that resolve, you know, you're most likely going to throw in the towel and give up. The other one is fully commit to your right to heal. Now, you know, if you are moving from one territory into another, whether it's even adjusting to civilian life, or finally realizing you need to face some of the issues you carry from operations or just from being in the military, you actually have to hold that you have the right to heal, that it's your right to progress through this and make your peace with whatever it is that you're carrying. Once you acknowledge that right, the next step is, as I've said, is to really acknowledge and be willing to use the resources, tools, discipline, and endurance to be able to move through that. And finally, and I think this is the most important one, is no matter how tough it gets, have an acknowledgement, a deal with it within yourself, that no matter what happens, you are simply not going to give up. Giving up is never an option. It just isn't. You know, the minute you start to give up, you train your brain to realize that when things are difficult, you're going to opt out. That's what the brain does. It becomes a default pattern. So you may sit down, take a break, have a weep, moan, groan, but at the end of the day, you're going to get up, you're going to dust off, and you're going to keep moving. Draw on friends, draw on encouragement, draw on mentors, draw on your skill, and draw on your resilience. Okay, so that's lesson 1. If you'd like to read more, it's in the book. Otherwise, I wish you a good journey and looking forward to catching up with you in a short while. Cheers, bye.